Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for and with manufacturing leaders. I'm Mike and this is Trevor. We want you to join us on our journey as we help you gain new insights, moments of clarity, and self-awareness.
Hey, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and uncover new perspectives to make your next day better, grab your coffee and let's go. Well, good day.
Hello. Good afternoon. Maybe good morning, whatever time you're tuning in.
In this COVID-19 era, a special time, special recording today. It's the first time Mike and I have not been together. Based on some of your feedback, we've worked on that audio quality, so we are running with a couple mics at different ends. And we had some challenges with everything going on ourselves and getting a guest on and also delivering a high level of audio quality for our mindfulness manufacturing fans.
Yeah, definitely times. I'm in Canada, Trevor in the States, and recording separate locations, but we still want to give everything we can back to the audience and the listeners. So we hope you enjoy this session.
And this session, we figured it was fitting because we're going through a lot of it now, is managing through these difficult times. You know, myself being in an apartment in Kentucky for a few weeks here and everybody going through different phases and communicating differently, and just the whole landscape underneath everybody is shifting. So the topic today is what Mike and I have been talking about a lot, is resiliency, and that, you know, just that ability to bounce back from things.
Yeah, it's a good topic, good discussion. You know, the one thing I think about is we're not alone. Everybody's in this together. It's not like it's happening in one part of the world. It's all across the world, which isn't positive, but at least we're all in the same position together.
Well, like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And
like
everyone's feeling that today because nobody planned for this. Nobody planned for a pandemic.
You know, it's funny. I thought back last year, end of November, I believe it was, when we started hearing about the coronavirus, not realizing coming April that we'd be in a pandemic situation, such a different landscape.
Yeah, so we've been just talking about, you know, what's our ability to adapt to that stress and adversity, and, you know, what's your capacity to recover from difficulty and toughness. And, you know, we know that with uncomfortable situations comes growth, comes different ways of thinking, and that's how we're all going to move forward. It's easier said than done sometimes in the process, and that's why we want to talk about that today.
Yeah, even just losing the human connection, so challenging. You go out for groceries as little as you can, and it's a different way of shopping. You got all kinds of restrictions, social distancing, so everything has changed. So talking about resiliency is how do we adapt to those changes? And what does our world look like, 4 months from now?
You know, I like the saying, because we get focused on things, and I'm sure you've heard different advice about, you know, how much news to consume. You know, what are you putting into your mind? Who are you talking to? We talked a lot about that on other episodes. You know, it's easy to say if you don't like what you're focused on to change it. But how do you actually do that when you get stuck? And we talk about self-awareness and awareness of others. And one of the things to get yourself maybe unstuck on yourself when you get into a bad place, because if you haven't been in a bad place in the last month, I'd like to talk to you, because I don't know anyone who hasn't. I know I have. And it doesn't matter how much you put into yourself. It's uncomfortable. It's just different spaces. So if you can focus on others, you know, who can you help? Who needs your help? Who can, how can you do that and focus on someone else and divert the attention? And a lot of healing can come through that.
Yes, it can. That's a good point. You know, trying to fill up your days with something that provides purpose, thinking about others, thinking about ways you can make use of the day to be better, especially through hard times. Very challenging.
And hey, I understand that we do need to kind of sit in that suffering sometimes. I liked what George Mumford said. When you find meaning in your suffering, it ceases to be suffering. And really, like, I mean, what do we take out of this? And it's that whole thing of, Mike and I spend a lot of time conversing. We definitely have a regular contact relationship, not only with the podcast, but just as partners in what we do. And one of the things is that, yeah, it's not always positive, and that's reality. And do I try to portray myself as positive most of the time? Absolutely. But it's not always there, and it takes some work. And sometimes you got to work through those negative emotions. That's a whole other topic. But you definitely want to kind of sit in that, label that feeling, and talk about it.
Yeah, you sure do. I think labeling it is important. When you put a label to it, you understand it, you work towards working through it, making it better. So that's a good point, Trevor. Really good point.
I mean, that's why we talk about this in this podcast, and we do want to talk about more, real manufacturing leadership issues. But I think the real issue right now is that manufacturing, for the large part, is shut down, and mindfulness. We kind of tie that back into how we ground and center ourselves. So it is a good time to really kind of look deeper into self, however that sounds, but really just kind of ground yourself, looking back at personal values. It's a good time to reflect on what's important in life. We're seeing numbers that are predicting people to die, and we know that based on data that so many are. So it does make you kind of say, well, what's important to me?
Yeah, and it's brand new. None of us have been through, well, most of us has not been through pandemic. So it's uncharted waters, which makes it more scary. But I think what we're talking about today is how do you manage that emotion? How do you try your best to look at one day at a time? I'm working with a couple different clients outside of manufacturing, and one is deemed as not essential. So basically they're shut down. The other client is deemed as essential. So you think the one that's not essential, basically talking with that owner, he has some anxiousness about not working, keeping his guys working. On the other hand, you got the other client who's employing people. They're working, but he's asking himself, is that the right thing to do? Having people all together, even though he's doing all the safe distancing, the practices, following, it still weighs heavy on his head and his heart. So similar things, different challenges, and that's what we're talking about today, that resiliency piece. How do you build that up to work through the COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great example, Mike. And I think the lesson I get listening to you is it doesn't matter what your situation is, whether you are working or you aren't working, everyone's having some level of uncomfortableness.
Yes.
And, COVID-19 is, not prejudiced against anybody, and all these changes. It's like, I don't know. I was talking to an 80-year-old today, and a question I like to ask them is, is there anything you can compare to what's going on right now? And the few people that I've talked to at that age, the answer is no.
Right. Yeah, the only thing I heard that was from my dad is he remembers polio, and it was scary. There were people dying or losing use of their legs. And back then, you didn't have the platforms of social media. All it was a newspaper. So a different time, but similar challenges and fears.
Yeah, I guess the fears is the common part. And I know even for myself, and we've talked about this, is mindfulness and emotions. It was really laughed on, and I know it still is today. I do feel there'll be a shift. And there's one thing that I know, because I felt before like I wasn't capable of observing my own emotions, that this is just who I am. And I guess one of the most powerful things for me is just now, after putting some effort into this, into thinking techniques, is everyone's capable of observing their feelings. It is something that's in all of us. It's like kindness. It's in us. We just have to let it be and not be unkind, or we just have to be able to step back, and we have to want to be people watchers of our own emotions.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was working with a client last week and they asked me, they said, "What's your outlet? How do you stay positive? How do you put things into perspective?" And I can remember 3 years ago, Trevor, you and I meditating. I was starting the journey of being mindful, and how we still have that practice today. And how important is that now? How does that keep us grounded?
It's never a bad time to start. I think people will find different strategies. It is a thinking strategy. Obviously, we started this podcast because of the changes that we've seen in ourselves and others, and seeing that, yeah, manufacturing doesn't talk about this, but will they talk about this more now? And how much will this grow with, I know it's been always kind of taboo in manufacturing for people to work from home. What will it be like in 6 months? Maybe not. Maybe it's an advantage. So it's just so exciting. When I say exciting, I'm looking forward to great things are to come from this. There's going to be great things that will come. So what are they? Not totally sure, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, you can grow through it or you can go through it. And I think at this time we're growing through it. Meaning that coming out the other end, there will be different things, different ways of doing business, such as from home, and there'll be things that'll reap positive benefits, be better for us.
We're here to share that we weren't ones, doing this 15 years ago. It's in the last 5 years that a lot of these practices have come into place. And that's why it's exciting to share that. So if you're looking for some things, whether it's a headspace or there's so much stuff free right now, people are very giving right now, just wanting people to help bond with that. And as Mike said, with the meditation, mindfulness practices, you can try that. It's not that weird. You don't got to sit on a pillow. It's not like that. There's lots of great resources out there. And you've got the thinking for resiliency, and then you've got the physical. How much sleep are you getting? What kind of foods are you putting in? I mean, it's easy right now if you're home or going to that refrigerator. And it's easy to say, I can't go to the gym now, or I can't play hockey, or whatever you may have been doing. So what else can you do? This is fun. Fun time to pick up something different.
Yeah, exactly. Learn something new. Take the time. Even if you're home with your family, like a lot of us are, it's a good time to do different things as a family. Because normally during the crazy times when everybody's working, you don't get these chances. And really, you have it. Make use of it. It's the best way you can look at it.
Another good one is relationships and working with some others on connecting with people. Again, focus on others. Who needs that phone call? And, can you do FaceTime or Zoom? Most of our communication comes through our body language. We have the technology today to see each other from the other side of the world and connect on a little bit deeper of a level.
Yeah, that's important. Today's technology, there's no reason we can't do all those things. And today's world, it's perfect for that. Your distance is from one house to another country, just like we're doing now. Same idea.
Take some breaks, connect with people in different media, whether that's a phone call for you, even email. I am a big advocate of that visual communication because it's so safe and it's so much more effective.
Yeah, I've been noticing on Facebook, a lot of people doing FaceTime with family, that they're not close to, like from a location, which I think is great. And they're sharing that with others, so others think the same way. They see what's available. There's one thing for the listeners to think about is only thing you can control is your reaction to what's happening around you. And right now, there's something serious happening. How are you controlling that reaction? Because it's within your ability. You can do that.
Yeah, great point, Mike. Don't be the judger of your feelings. We're all human, and we just need to accept that situation. And like Mike said, how do you respond to it? Well, diffusing. Diffusing from our emotions in order to regain control of them. Label them. Okay, yeah, it is this way. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do to get out of this funk? And have a little self-compassion.
Yeah.
We talk about that is that we all end up beating ourselves up sometimes. I haven't gone to the gym in the last 4 weeks. Okay, well, it's been a different time, and that's okay. Forgive yourself, and let's do something different tomorrow.
Yeah, being hard on yourself right now is not the answer. That doesn't mean you don't do things that don't make you feel good, like working out and eating healthy. But if you have a few days where you miss it, don't be so hard on yourself. Get back on track. Start to do the things that make you feel good. Continue with those things. If you slip up a little bit, that's okay.
And that's why we're talking about going back to the original name of this podcast and getting back to, hey, what are the things we can do that we can manage through these times? Because once you can accept those feelings and say, you know what, I am off. I'm aware of that. And I need to deal with that. Talk it through with somebody, whether you journal, all these different techniques. Because once you get through that and you don't beat yourself up and you accept the situation, then you can do your stuff on whether you like to problem solve it, goal set, action plans. You got to do some communication, whatever your actions are. But first step is, it's easy to say, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. This doesn't bother me at all. You're like, okay, well, I don't know. Are you being honest with yourself? Because that's where it starts.
Exactly. The other thing, catch up on some movies. We found with my kids, we've been watching some movies we haven't watched in years. Classics, great movies. We laugh. Laughter is so good. Occupies your mind other than COVID-19. So it's a good feeling, good time to do those things.
It's a great point, Mike. And I think that's why once you can kind of forgive yourself for where you're at today and going back to what we talked about in the beginning, which was focus on what you're in control of. Well, a lot of it you're not in control of. You got to be home. So watch a funny movie, get into a Netflix series. That's okay. Balance it out.
Yes, it is.
Get out during the day and get some sun if it's out there and do some different things. Get tired and then, get with someone. Watch a movie remotely with someone else. Say, hey, we're both going to watch this movie. We can talk about it. Whatever it is that you need to do to bend your circumstances. But that other technique is just environment. What can we do in our environment? If you're working from home, lots of advice out there on make a separate room, take breaks, do something that you love. Like Mike said, around whether maybe it's practicing that guitar that you haven't in a while, watching that funny movie. Maybe it's art. I don't know. Maybe it's just time for you to learn something that you never thought about doing. It's popped into your head now, and hey, we've got the time. Let's try it.
Do a TikTok. That's popular. My kids love it, and they do well at it. They're pretty funny. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Outlet.
And
a good outlet.
And social media has gotten a lot of criticism as it's grown. But how about now? How about how we can use it to connect and express? Another option for you.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was nominated by two friends from high school that I haven't seen in years to share my 10 most influential albums that created my musical choices. My first one today was Led Zeppelin II, recorded October 22nd, 1969. The music still holds true today. So we're having fun. We're having a great time.
Great choice, Mike. Two albums in 1 year they put out. Great choice.
Great way to spend the time.
So to wrap up here today for manufacturing, we didn't talk so much specifically on that. We really wanted to focus on you today. And resiliency is really about what are you doing yourself so that you can show up as your best self and help others and help yourself. It's got to start with you. We always say it starts with self-awareness. So maybe you can think about something tomorrow or maybe even today that you picked up through these conversations today and just do something different. And email Mike or I. We love to connect with people, especially now. There is time to respond and connect, and it's so good. We really enjoy that part, our relationship with our listeners.
Yes, we do. The one thing I want the listeners to think about, one day at a time. Put it in perspective. Follow what's laid out. Social distancing, wash your hands, do those things, and this too shall pass. It will pass. Do our part.
One bite at a time. I've heard that one too.
Yes, I have too. It's a good one. All right.
That is another good one of yours, Mike. Yeah, this too shall pass. Good way to end this. And we'll come back in a couple weeks. We're going to work on getting a guest here. And if there's anything that you want to see here, especially with the different environment and landscape that we're moving across, we will keep this relevant and we will keep this customized to mindfulness manufacturing.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much. Have a great night or a great day. We'll talk soon. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We had so much fun. Please remember to subscribe. It's free. Share it with colleagues. Look for our next episode in a couple weeks.
If you want to drive results, the first step is realizing how you show up.
That's the essence of mindfulness in manufacturing.